And so he told him, he said, why don't you call Jimmy up in Ohio, said maybe he can help you. So this guy calls me on the phone, and his name was Travis White. I never heard the name before. And when he called, I surely didn't know where he's calling from, and he called me and said, how are you doing? I said, I'm doing fine, sir. And I don't know who he is, you know. And he said, you have a friend in Florida, and he'd asked me to call you. He said, I have cancer. And he said, my doctor is also the surgeon in the hospital here. And he said, they've given me 60 days, and they said I'm going to die. I said, where you live at, Dave? He named some town I never even dreamed of. And I said, where's that at? And he said, Australia. I said, where? No, he said, I live 1,000 miles north of Sydney, Australia. So wherever that's at, you know, way up in that northern part. And I said, okay, how old are you, sir? And he said, 58. And he said, like I said, they've given me less than 60 days, and they told me, you know, that I was going to die. Well, I said, do you want to die, sir? He said, well, I don't feel like checking out. That was his term. Well, I said, how many people did you say you had in your church? And he said, I got between 60 and 70 people in my church. Well, I said, do you think God's done with your work, sir? Well, he said, I would like to think not. I said, you won't die. You'll live. I said, I can do my part. Do you think you can do your part, sir? I thought I put it on him instead of me. He said, well, tell me what's my part. I said, can you do your diet? Have you ever done a diet, sir? Well, he said, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, you eat animal protein, fish, shrimp, chicken, crab, duck, pork, beef, I don't care what it is. You have animal protein? Well, yeah, he said, I do about every day. I said, you ain't going to have no more. He said, what? No more. I said, you can't have no more animal protein, buddy. Animal protein makes cancer just inflame. I said, you like dairy? He said, well, I eat cheese, and I forget what else it was, you know, and stuff. I said, you can't have no more of that either. I said, if you don't have mucus in that body, cancer don't form. If you're not acid, cancer don't form. He said, is that right? I said, that's true. So then I told him, he said, well, tell me, what can I have then? You know, pretty soon it sounded like I can't have anything. So I started telling him about fruits and vegetables, grains, seeds, nuts, and berries. I said, you can have all that you want, but you ain't going to get no more animal protein. You're not going to have no more dairy. That's the end of it, buddy. I said, you don't drink soda, do you? No, he said, I don't drink no sodas. I said, how about sports drinks? No, he said, I don't do that. I said, how about coffee? I get them all on that one. He said, well, yeah, I drink a little coffee. I said, you can have 1 cup a day. And I learned down through the time with dealing with women, they did only have 1 cup, but they refilled it 4 or 5 times a day. Till one of them called me and told me, and I said, I will catch you the next time. So I said, you can have 1 8-ounce cup of coffee in the morning. And coffee not is only raised in DDT and chemicals, but it actually leaches nutrients from your body. So as you're urinating the good nutrients out, why am I pumping you with good stuff and it goes out your urine? So I said, you can have 1 cup a day, 8 ounces, and I said, I'll beat it. So along in there someplace, he said, sir, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. He said, are you honest? Do you believe you can help me? I said, you want to be well? I'll send you the stuff. You'll get well. No problem. Well, he said, I'll sure do it then. And that conversation, he was broke up a little bit. You know, his speech was not very good and stuff. And I won't say he was crying because I wasn't there, but he was tore up pretty good. So that was in the middle of the day, and I went to Brother Bell's that night for devotions. And before we started, I said, Brother Bell, a guy called me from Australia. Yeah? I said, what was his name? I said, I think his name was Travis White. He said, oh, I know him. I said, what, Brother Bell? He said, he come over here in about 1981, son. I took him to dinner. I said, Brother Bell, you know everybody in the world? I mean, I'd never even heard the guy's name before. He said, why? And I told him what the man said. He said, you go get the stuff off of Joel, son. Now, he's never seen Joel, but he knew where I come to get my stuff all the time. He said, you go get the stuff off of Joel, I'll pay the bill. I said, Brother Bell, you going to pay that man's bill? He said, son, tithing comes in, it must stay in the ministry. He said, I have a fund that must stay in the ministry to help ministers, and it helps their wives if the minister's dead, you know, widows of a minister. And he said, he's a minister, I got the money, I'll pay for it. Well, I said, I don't care who pays. Don't mean nothing to me as long as you give me my money back. Because a lot of times I don't get my money back. No, I shouldn't say a lot, but a few times I don't get my money back because most of the people I deal with is always out of state. There's not many here right here. Most of them is in Pennsylvania and Arizona and Florida. And now I'm dealing with 2 people in Oklahoma and 2 in Arizona. But anyway, the ones that go to church mostly pay, but once in a while I'll find somebody and they'll say, well, I'll write you a check. Well, I can call them in a month and they say, well, I sent you a check. Well, I never did get it. But anyway, he paid the bill. I sent a gallon of Spice for Life, a pre-cleanse, the Maximum Restore. That was what I sent him the first time. And then down the road, I sent him another product called the Easy-Act Tea again. So, in 3 months, the guy calls me on the phone. He said, listen, I went into the doctor 2 days ago and had my blood work done, and they use a different kind of a system. They call it markers. My markers started off at 189 and they're down to 157 in 3 months. Well, my only reply was, I said, well, why do you think I sent you the stuff? And the guy laughed on the phone. But in 6 months, he went back to the doctor and they did his blood work, and he called me and he said, Brother Pitts, you're never going to know how much I appreciate you. I said, is that right, buddy? And he said, listen, I had my blood work done 2 days ago and they told me there is no leukemia left. I am totally well. He said, I cannot believe that I'm well. I said, well, you better believe it, buddy. That's why you got the stuff. So I tell Brother Bell, and so he said, now see, son, that was a Bible principle. The Bible said, give and it shall be given unto you. He said it didn't say take and somebody will give. He said give. So I said, okay. Now he said, you see, he said somebody in Florida knew you and they talked to that man and he called you. And he said, God opened the door, not you. You didn't know him. And he said, you was able to go to Joel and know where to get the stuff. And he said, I paid the bill. So he said, you get the blessing from God, a reward one day for helping him get well from cancer. And he said, I get a blessing for furnishing the money, son. I said, is that the way it works, Brother Van? He said, yeah. He said, that's the way it always works, son. He said, I started that practice when I first started preaching. And he started preaching, I think he said he was 22. And he was born in 1914. And he said, if I went to a place and preached and the people didn't have enough money or wouldn't give, he said, I would find the widow or the orphan. He said, look at your Bible. It said, you know, to help the widows and the orphans. He said, so if they didn't give me enough money to get to my next place to preach, he said, I'd go by a deacon or something and say, listen, you got a widow in the church or something that's having a hard time, you know, maybe she can't hardly make it and stuff. And he said, everybody's got to know somebody's son that's bad. He said, I'd take every nickel I had in that pocket, pull it out and hand it to him. He said, don't let them know where it came from. Because he said, the Bible said, let the left hand know what the right hand did. So he said, as long as you're not trying to get glory from it, God will reward you. But he said, if you take it and give Lynn $50, naturally Lynn's going to like you. Who wouldn't like you if you didn't get $50? But there's no reward for that because he'll do something for you. But if a person don't know it, they can't apply that. So then you've earned rewards for the other side. And that was the things that he would teach me. So then one day on the phone, another guy called me. His name was Mark Ball was his name. I've never met him either. He was a school teacher and he was 61 years old and he lived in northern Ohio. So he went to a church in Lima, Ohio, where somebody up there had passed my name, you know, that I'd help somebody, you know, I don't even know who. So this guy calls me and he said, my doctor says that I got, I think, 3 months to live. I asked him his age and it was 61. And he said, I'm a school teacher. And he said, somebody in the Lima church gave me your name and said, maybe you could possibly help me. Because he said, I've already had all the chemo that they could give me and all the radiation. And he said, they sent me home and said, we did what we could do for you. I said, you ever hear about a vegetarian diet? He said, I've already started that. He said, I've done a lot of research on the internet. And he said, I found out that the people that did the vegetarian diets didn't seem to have near the